Hello everybody, I'm from Academic Software Solutions and I'm here to show you how to install your own virtual machine. For those of you that don't know, a virtual machine is a way to run a different operating system or different applications on your computer. Think of it like a computer on your computer.
Go.
For example, if you have a Windows computer and need to do a task that requires Linux functions, a virtual machine would be the perfect way to do that. Today we'll be using VirtualBox for our installation. VirtualBox is a free and open source hypervisor. A hypervisor is just a software that creates and runs the virtual machine. And all right, let's get into it. The first step for downloading a VirtualBox virtual machine onto your host computer is to download the correct ISO or VDI file for the desired operating system from a legitimate source. Today, we will be using OS Boxes. It's an organization that provides operating system archives for free for uses just like this. We'll be using Ubuntu 21.1, and it is a distribution of Linux that is very clean and should be very easy to install. Next, download and install Oracle VirtualBox software from their website. They have variations for Windows, Mac, and various Linux distributions. After downloading and unpacking everything, go ahead and launch VirtualBox. First thing first, press New in the top center of the screen to start creating a new virtual machine. Name it whatever you'd like, but typically the default location is preferred, but you can change it to whatever you'd like. Since I'm using Ubuntu, I'm going to change this to Linux and scroll down to Ubuntu 64-bit. Next, select the needed or desired random access memory, or RAM, volume. The default size is 1024 megabytes, but the user may want or need more memory depending on the purpose of the VM. Depending on your requirements for different tools or a specific operating system, you may want to change it, but typically 1024 to 2048 is recommended for functionality. Next, because we're using an existing downloaded operating system image, we are going to select this bottom option. Go ahead and browse that little folder icon to find the operating system that we downloaded earlier and select that. Now press Create. This will initialize the virtual machine and unpack the operating system image in the designated directory, getting it ready for use. After the VM has been created, we'll need to fine-tune the settings for our use. Press the orange Settings button at the top center of the screen to open the Settings window. The primary concern for most basic virtual machines is hardware allocation and the network functionality. So first what we want to do is click on the System tab on the left side of the Settings window. Here we want to ensure that the amount of base memory is sufficient for our needs. Many software tools provide hardware specifications. If using a virtual machine for a specific tool, please check the requirements. For a basic 86 Ubuntu install such as this, 2 gigabytes is appropriate for smooth usage, so change the base memory from 1024 to 2048 megabytes. This will be best for smooth and functional usage. Also ensure that you don't allocate more than you can afford to. Most modern PCs have around 8 gigabytes of memory and 8 CPU cores, of which no one should allocate more than 50% to a virtual machine. Next, under the Processor tab, check both the extended feature boxes to improve virtualization and hypervisor driver performance. Also select around 1 to 4 CPU cores depending on your individual needs for your virtual machine, with a 100% execution cap to provide optimal processing power to the virtual machine. Under acceleration, make sure nested paging hardware virtualization is enabled by checking the box. This just makes sure the hardware virtualization is functioning properly. Next, navigate to the Network tab of the Settings window. Under the Default tab for Adapter 1, switch Attach to from Network to just NAT to improve performance. Under Advanced, ensure that the listed network adapter is correctly configured and the same as your host system. Finally, randomize the MAC address at least once to ensure separable traffic and a little bit more security between the host and the virtual machine. Finally, VirtualBox virtual machines are essentially as secure as their host operating systems. If you need greater security or data protection for the virtual machine created, click on the General tab on the far right of the settings window. Under Disk Encryption, enable encryption and enter or confirm a secure key. This will protect and obscure data within the virtual machine directory. Lastly, snapshots are a great way to protect your VM and the work you may have done within it. A snapshot of a virtual machine is similar to a backup on a computer, but it accounts for things like real-time running state and saves all available data to give the best protection and refresh experience available. To take advantage of this functionality, you need to take your first snapshot. To do so, go here to this little button and select Snapshots. The screen for managing snapshots by date taken and event contents. To take your first snapshot, press Take at the top center of the screen. You'll be prompted for a name and description of the snapshot, which should typically be by date so you can better organize your backups. Now that you've backed up your VM, you're free to use it in any needed or desired way because you can protect your host operating system using the hypervisor shell and protect the VM by restoring a snapshot with restore if ever it's damaged. All right, everybody, and that's it. It's advisable to regularly back up your virtual machine to have the most recent versions and also to ensure that the settings are still correct and appropriate to optimize your performance. All right, everybody, have fun using your virtual machine and feel free to leave us a comment below if you've got any questions or any issues.